Hey boyos, this is a response video to the Ask Me Anything thread on the misc, so we'll jump right into it. And the first one is Boy Girl says, "Why are you strange?" Well, I also have a question for you. Why are you red? And moving on, we have Jughead966, most likely not the real Jughead. What are your thoughts on Christianity and its positive and negative impacts on Western society? I think it's overall a good thing, if it makes people have faith and do good for their fellow man, then great. Um, I think it's, it can corrupt, right? Take advantage of people that are in a vulnerable position, trusting other people who they believe are of faith, right? But that's usually not the case. And when you eventually get the government housing in Halifax, do you dread being around a bunch of Indians? Not really. I won't have much contact with Indians other than on the public transit. Um, Obviously, it'll still be mostly white people. I don't think it's going to be much different than where I'm living at now. Like, literal businesses are run by Indians around here. Nothing but Indians, no white people in some of those businesses. So, I don't think it'll be much different than what I've come accustomed to living in the area I'm in now. Fall or spring? Um, Probably fall. Um, Not because of anything like Halloween, but probably because of things like Thanksgiving, and it's generally a break from the warmer weather of summer, but not really cold. You could say the opposite for spring, where it's a break from the cold of winter. But spring is funny because you know you get occasional days you can go a month without snow, and then suddenly it'll just snow out of nowhere and be below freezing, and it's just a pain in the ass. Spring is more unpredictable than fall. Fall is generally more predictable, and with climate change and all that, it's generally not snowing until well into the winter months. What trait or saying screams Nova Scotian about someone the most? Well, overcooking meat, overcooking pasta. Also, being ignorant to the real world is a trait that screams Nova Scotian. Being poor screams Nova Scotian. Um, what's saying? There's a few that I can't really think of at the moment. People will say just down the road, and that's like a Nova Scotian thing, just down the road. Typically, people in other places might say just down the street or up the street. Just down the road probably is one thing that Nova Scotians say. Did you own any Honda three wheelers growing up? Um, a big red. We had a big red little three wheeler. That was the only time we had a three wheeler, and what happened was the neighbor had the three wheeler and it wouldn't start. It wouldn't start up. So my dad, he immediately knew what was wrong with it. He offered to buy it from Buddy for $100, and the neighbor sold it to him. He brought it home. 10 minutes, he fixed it. It was just the starter needed to be replaced, and the neighbor was kind of upset and wanted to buy it back, and Dad wouldn't sell it back to him. Well, too bad for him. It's his three wheeler now. But we sold that a long time ago. But that just shows the stupidity of some people. They can't even identify when it's a starter that needs to be replaced on a something like that. Then LA Hipster One says, "Love this series. It's 100% honestly, which is very very rare. 100% honesty, I think is what he means. Yeah, I'm pretty real. I'm a very honest person. I'm a typical beta male. I know being a beta male gets a bad rap on the misc, but because it's generally defined as you're either alpha or beta, and beta is everything negative, and that's not the case. I don't mean it like that. Beta is basically second in command to the alpha, with the other male archetypes underneath the beta. So, I am a true beta male, essentially an alpha male in training. So, honesty is one of my defining characteristics. Can you give us an update on the job situation? I still get the feeling you have not left Globe Life training fully. That's right. I have not left the training fully. It's still there anytime I want to return to it. I'm signed up for the training for a year. So if I suddenly have some kind of epiphany or revelation and decide, hey, I'm going to make this work, I'm going to do it, I can go back to the training and just somehow make it work and be raking in the cash. But I'm, as of yet, still waiting for that moment to come. Um, and I did have a couple interviews with Rogers, selling internet cable and phone. And I kind of blew the second interview. I was out of practice with call centers, and he did some role play scenarios where he pretended to be the customer, and I did not answer very well at all because I was so out of practice. Um, there is no pressure on me to get a job because I have a disability, but I would like to have a job temporarily just to help me climb out of debt and give me some pocket cash. But moving on, how is your weight loss going? Are you on track with your walks, etc.? It's going fine. I'm not walking 2 hours every day. I'll go a couple days and not walk, and then I'll go a couple days and walk 2 hours every day. And I believe longevity and consistency is more important than going all balls out to the wall for a little while and then giving up completely, right? You can just use the fact to just say, well, just make yourself do it. Well, I'm a lazy person by nature. I don't force myself to do things I don't really want to do. I give in to temptation, which is probably why I'm so overweight. But as far as how is the weight loss going, I have not weighed myself. I'm using the mirror as more of a judge, and my appearance has improved, partly from the walks, partly from reduced sodium, and I did probably lose a very small amount of weight in the past few weeks. Probably nothing substantial, maybe a couple pounds, maybe a bit more than that if you consider like the reduced sodium and water bloat. So that's how that's going. Donnie Too Yucky is on a fat loss journey and locked in. He has called you out saying he doubts you can make a similar journey. What do you have to say to him? Well, Boyle, it comes down to I just want to minimize losses at the very least and not become more overweight. And when I get into housing, I have no excuse then to not put the pedal down and actually lose all the weight I want to lose, get in shape, have the life I want, right, within reason. So that's all I have to say about that. You have been out of the dating scene for 15 years. That is a long time. How will you approach dating again? Will you use apps or will you try to meet up in person? If so, where? I won't use apps. I'm not paying money for dating apps because my experience with dating apps, they're not successful. I'm not successful with them at all. Um, the success I've had with women is basically it just kind of happens, a relationship. It's not something that I plan out or go out of my way to try to make happen. It just happens, right? And how would I approach dating again? I might try a more aggressive approach where when I'm out and about grocery shopping and stuff, I might make it a game of making it a point every time I go shopping to talk to at least one stranger, just to give me the necessary social skills to, succeed. And I believe that my social skills are lacking because I have not made an effort to improve them. Now I do have like call center and salesman experience to back me up and help me a little bit, and scoring a sloot in a relationship is kind of like making a sale to a customer in a way, but it differs because when I worked as a salesman, the customers never seen me, right? So there's a new aspect to it. I would have to learn body language and being really positive with my body language around people, and also when you're dealing with a customer in a sales position, you meet the customer once, you speak to them for a matter of minutes, then they're gone, and you probably never ever have contact with them again, right? So it's a little different too than you know trying to be a player or trying to score with sleuths, right? So it's a little different, but it is somewhat similar. And moving on, the oldest woman you had a relationship was early 30s. Now you are older. Would you be able to handle a woman in her 40s? What if she has kids? I was never in a relationship with somebody in their early 30s. I did go on a couple dates with a woman that was in her early 30s when I was in my late 20s. And it went fine. She didn't necessarily have a problem with me. It's just I don't think either one of us took the dating very serious, and she eventually cut me off. And I feel partly it was because I wasn't more aggressive with, trying to do anything physical with her. And as far as dating a woman in my 40s, have you seen what women my age look like? They don't look very good. I'll likely, say I'm 45 and by then I'm in shape, let's say, I might go for women that are much younger than me because I don't want to get with a whale or somebody that's really ugly in a whale, so I may end up dating people in like their 20s, younger women that are like 25. I've had women in their early 20s in recent years show interest in me, strong interest in me. So, I have the validation from myself that I've still got it and I could get a younger woman if I applied myself and jumped on opportunities when they arose. So, as far as dating somebody in their 40s, it's probably not going to happen. I'm a little behind socially, right? And I don't think I'd be on par with somebody that's my age. I'd be more on par with a younger woman that's in their 20s, likely. Um, and what if she has kids? Well, I had serious relationships with two other women in my 20s that had children. They each had one child. I literally had no contact with the kid. It was just I'd go over, we'd have sex, we'd hang out a bit, and I didn't really associate with the kids that they had at all. So, what is your dating age limit? Um, I'm not sure. The younger the better, within reason, of course. Um, that'll drive certain listeners crazy, but within reason, you know, um, I probably wouldn't want to date somebody my age. Probably my limit is like 5 years younger than me and not older than that. And as far as young as possible being, um, I probably wouldn't want to date anybody under the age of like 20. Just because I've had bad experiences with dating teenage sleuths, right? They're not mature enough really to exactly know what they want in life. They're fickle, and they're often held back. They hold themselves back from being themselves, probably. And I don't know if that's because I was much more attractive in my youth, and that's why they acted like that. But moving on, many women today are in open relationships looking for an extra man. Would you be open to being the bull in such a relationship? Fuck no. I am not sharing a woman with somebody else, even if it is somebody else's woman. I'm not sharing a woman at all. I'm very old fashioned. I want one partner. That's it. No sharing. If she gives me reason to believe that there's something else going on with her and another guy, it's over. I'm not fucking around in relationships anymore, and I generally haven't. Sometimes I'm a little lenient, but generally I don't take no bullshit from a woman when I'm in a relationship with her, right? Um, in a way, I'm kind of like an alpha male when it comes to women because I won't tolerate bullshit with them. I don't worship them. I don't hate them, like I'm not an incel, but I don't worship them. I put them in their place generally and knock them down a peg. Like I'm not all over them, worshiping them, right? So you said, quote unquote, Chad can do whatever Chad wants. And I agree with this, but a lot of men have issues getting Chad's leftovers, knowing you can never make a woman feel as good as when Chad was all over her. What's your thoughts about dating women who has been around the block, pumped and dumped, and are now looking for a provider to settle with? Um, well, if things go right and I get back to what I used to be, I would probably be just shy of being a Chad, save for the balding that I have, right? If I had my hair back and I got in really good shape and lost all the weight, I'd essentially be a high tier normie or Chad, right? So I'll be just shy of that now, but even back then, my receding hairline was quite obvious. I just wasn't balding, and I would often get called Chad because I had a few very admirable facial qualities like my eyes and my smile, and I'd smile at people, and it would usually be enough to charm them, despite the receding hairline that I had. And my smile isn't what it used to be because of all the fat on my face, so I can smile, and it's not as impressive as when I was in really good shape. So, but as far as Chad's leftovers, well, I'm not too worried about that because if it's typically a woman that at my own age I'm going for, she's gonna be with a lot of men before me. But like I said, I'm probably gonna go for younger women in their 20s, and it's really not that difficult to find somebody in their 20s that has never been with a man. Um, I mean, it's not easy, but it's not that difficult. I've known quite a few women who were early 20s who had never been with a guy before. So I prefer not to get with a virgin again, just because they likely won't know what they want. And yeah, I prefer to be with somebody who's had a few partners, right? Who knows a little bit about what they want, right? So moving on. Michelle has been out of the dating scene for many years. I know you have had your UPS ups and downs with her, but would you be open to chat with her a bit and see where you align and water the ground a little and see if anything can grow? You already know each other from the misc, so you know each other's stories. I am not having an internet relationship with a woman online. That is the sole reason why I will not go through with something like that. I am not having a long distance internet relationship with a woman, right? And I'm not looking for a partner at the moment as it is. And when I do look for a partner, I will still not consider her because, as far as I know, she lives in the US, I live in Canada. I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing that. So that's out of the question. Many female miscers in their 40s and 50s who are after really young men, we are talking about early 20s men, this is completely against nature and they only do it for sex and to remove men from the dating pool. What are your thoughts about old women dating young men? Well, it takes two to tango. So if they're all for it, I got no problem with it, right? I don't see it as any different than an older male like myself going for women in their 20s, right? Um, so yeah, I got no problem with it. If he's all for it, sure. It doesn't make somebody a pedophile just because they go for somebody 20, 30 years younger than themselves, right? Definitely does not. The misc is a little confused about what a pedophile is. Mr. 83 says, just be yourself, John. That is all we ask. I'm pretty much myself. I'll talk some shit on the misc, make fun of some people, but I don't really mean it. It's just misc is misc, right? And Pyram says, what would you do if you won the lottery? Well, the first thing I would do is be rich, obviously. I kind of covered this in another thread when somebody said, what if you got 150K every year, no strings attached, and fluctuated with the rising costs of things every year? Um, I would get my license. I would get a vehicle. I would buy a modest house, probably close to the shore where I live. I probably wouldn't move somewhere like Toronto. I was considering that, but no, I'd probably still live a fairly modest life, just gain some things that I wanted. I'd have a modest house, something that somebody that's like middle income would have, not something that's upper class. I wouldn't want a big mansion or a really fancy place, just a modest place. But I would have a paved driveway. I would pave the driveway. I would have a brick fence exterior that's like 7 feet tall, and I'd want to have a lot of land, like 100 acres, preferably more, depending how much I won for the lottery. I would obviously do a bunch of things with my life, like start going to charm school, um, start going to a public gym, a good one that's expensive, that has the necessary things needed for serious lifters, not some BS like Good Life that's for families. Um, Probably go on a beginner cycle of steroids just to bring me up to acceptable testosterone levels. Probably look into going on more expensive blood thinning medication because the blood thinning medication I'm on is making my balding more severe. Um, that's just some examples of things I would do if I won the lottery. I'd probably join like a millionaires club and probably try to keep my friends exclusive to stuff like that that are on the same level as me and when it comes to income or wealth. And moving on, Jughead966 says, "You don't need to answer this, John. This is just ridiculous. Come on, bro. Be reasonable in your questions." Well, I answered all of them. I hope I did good. And then we go on. Mr. 83 says, "Please say, every day in every way I am getting better and better." How is that, bro? If I lie to myself enough, eventually I'll believe it. Guinea Dago 585 says, "If you could give advice to your 25-year-old self, what would you say?" I would say, "Boyo, listen up. You're doing one positive thing, which means you're on the misc. Um, I would say, get a job as a salesman, and you will make it. In 10 years, you can retire. You're fresh, you're young, you still have the desire to work. Your mental health has not become a factor. Get a job as a salesman, make a killing. 10 years, you'll retire as a rich man. Don't worry about women. Don't chase women at all. You know, keep your dick in your pants. Don't worry about women at all. Don't chase women." Godfred824 says he'd tell his younger self to get a job. Yeah, whatever, Godfred. Moving on. Iron Manlet says, "Has anyone really been far even as decided to use even go want to do look more like?" I have no idea what you're trying to say with that post. So I will skip that because I have no idea what that question means. A. Willis asks, "Could you do an anal only relationship if a sleuth requested that of you and you were only allowed to enter the poos to try and procreate? Serious." No, I've never tried anal. I don't plan to. I'm not gay. I have no attraction to the asshole at all. So, hope that answers the question. And Orson Welles says, "How long will it take you to get a six-pack at the rate you are going weight loss-wise?" Probably a very long time. Things can change. I could reach a sudden epiphany or revelation where, I start putting the pedal down and start losing weight really quickly. I think a 50-pound weight loss in a year is good progress. I think reasonably, once I start making meaningful progress, I think a 2-year period and I could have a six-pack of abs again. Tripod29 says, "Can you please describe in detail why Donnie Two Yucky's diet plan is retarded?" I get no problem with the guy. I don't think his diet plan is retarded. If it's working for him, then it's working. Great for him. I applaud him if what he's doing is working, and based on what he's been saying, it's working. Obviously, I'm not for eating ice cream. I'm not for eating pizza, even though I occasionally do those things. But to me, I generally see things in black or white, and I don't practice what I preach generally, and I should. I mean, sometimes I do practice what I preach, but if I was living on my own in housing and there was no temptation laying around like junk food, I'd put the pedal down and I wouldn't be eating any junk food. I'd just be eating basically one real meal a day of meat and vegetables, and the rest of the day I would probably eat a few pieces of fruit and vegetables, and that'd be it. And moving on, Donnie Too Yucky says, "Damn, boyo, you sound rustled serious. Just LOL at caring what John thinks about dieting. The dude hasn't dropped a single pound yet. He also hasn't even bought a scale yet. Meanwhile, I have a true and track record of weight loss, 40 plus pounds. I am qualified to give diet advice because I've actually done it." Good for you, boyo. The thing is, this is 2026, and most people are aware of how to lose weight. It's just most people lack the motivation, self-discipline, and desire to actually lose weight because they have an eating addiction. They have an addiction to food. That's why so many people are overweight. That's all it is, right? I have known people, they didn't really know anything more than normal people did about weight loss and dieting, and they just decided suddenly to put the pedal down and they were going to lose weight, and they did it, right? So anybody is capable of weight loss. It's just you have to have the desire, you have to have the self-discipline. That's all it is. I don't believe yet Donnie Too Yucky is superior to me, and I don't think I'm superior to him. It's just that he may feel more motivated and more self-disciplined at the moment. He may have more factors going for him than against him than I do at the moment. That's all. So, that is it for the video, boyos. Peace out. I'll see you online.